Here we go. So your job,
Yeah,
as an Evertonian,
yeah,
your main priority, main number one priority, yes,
yeah,
is to love Everton.
yes.
He's failed already. Because as any good Evertonian will tell you, your main priority as an Evertonian is not to love Everton, but it's to hate Liverpool. There you go. So you failed again.
Again, though, I have to be professional now because I work with the likes of you and Emil Heskey.
So you mean off camera you can tell me you hate Liverpool, but
So
not
off camera, yeah, I can give you all the stick in the world. So he's pretty much introduced himself already. As you can see, I've got Mr. John Barnes.
But I haven't introduced myself because I want to hear my great achievements. Because you should have done some research. So go on, you can't just say here's John Barnes. What have I done? How many games? How many goals? How many caps? How great am I? Tell them.
I'm in for a tough hour. This man played at the highest level of world football for England.
That's the standard
Started
answer.
off at Watford, Liverpool, went on to, as he will tell us, did far better at Celtic as a manager than...
What about Newcastle? Did I mention Newcastle?
Okay, Newcastle as well.
How many caps?
What, for England?
Yeah. A little bit of research before we even met, wasn't it?
70?
79. That's okay.
79, right. So as we go through this, I will try and demonstrate to John that I have done my research. As you can see, John doesn't suffer fools gladly, so hopefully I won't make fun of myself today. Before we start though, as you know, I'm from Futera. We make very, very beautiful sports cards. Some of the most beautiful sports cards in the world.
Cards.
Cards.
I thought it was sports cars.
Neville Southall made the same mistake, right? Neville Southall
You
made...
mean I've come all the way down here? 4 hours it took me. I thought I was coming to get a sports car.
Sorry to
cards,
disappoint you.
okay, that's
Sorry
okay.
to... Neville Southall had signed all of his and then literally started talking to me about cars, and I said to him, sports cards, he just signed 100 of them. So anyway, so John's going to sign these cards. These will go into our future releases that are sold on our website to collectors all around the world. And what we like to do as well...
Once again, sorry to interrupt you, but it's going to be like this all day, I'm afraid. Looking in the crowd, I think there's some Manchester United fans here, are there? Are there no Man United fans here? Not even one. Not even... Come here, just come here a second. Here's a Man United fan. Now, because you're nice down south, what would have happened if we were up north? What would have happened is when we said there's a Man United fan, everybody would have booed in the old days, yeah? So when here's a Man United fan, everyone would have gone boo, boo, boo. And because you're so nice, you didn't boo. But if you go somewhere and there are Man United fans and people boo, we don't boo Man United fans anymore, okay? This is 2024. We do not boo Manchester United fans anymore because there's a new sound we make when there are Man United fans in the room. Do you want to hear the sound? You want to hear the sound that we make? Okay, and I'm just saying there's a Man United fan in the room.
There's a Man United fan in the room. This is like a struggle session with John Barnes. If he gets a hug,
because we don't boo Man United fans anymore. You know why? Because they are not our rivals. Man United now the rivals of Nottingham Forest, Luton, Sheffield United,
Everton.
No, Everton are better than Man United. Anyway, get on with it. I'm taking up too much of your time. Sorry, you can sit back down now. Good luck today. Okay. Don't clap it.
Remember, if he gets a hug though, as a Man United fan and all the success they've had, what do I get? As an Evertonian, not seeing my team win a trophy since 1995.
But you beat Liverpool, didn't you, in the derby?
That's a trophy.
Oh, there you go. That's as good as it gets for Everton.
There we go. So, so John's gonna sign his cards. I'm going to ask him some questions. Hopefully, they're going to be questions that will demonstrate that I have done some research, and then you can ask them. But the pressure's on now because if you ask him a silly one, he will undoubtedly let you know.
I won't, because of course there are no silly questions, only silly answers. Okay. You have to know how to deal with any question. So there are no silly questions in football.
But there would be a silly question, wouldn't there? If someone said like, "How did you feel playing for Notts Forest?" I didn't play for Notts Forest. You know what I mean? That'd be a silly question.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure they won't ask that question.
No,
they're not very intelligent people.
This is true.
In fact, but I felt better playing for Nottingham Forest than playing for Everton, so it's not that silly.
Right. Okay. So, John, first off, what do you think to your cards? You look very. I mean, I noticed when you came in, some of the ladies at the front were very happy to see you, John. Very handsome.
Well, they weren't.
Dashing young man.
They weren't, because they looked at the cards and when they saw me, they're very disappointed. Because those cards is when I was a young man, and I'm sure they're disappointed that it wasn't the shorts. You remember the tight shorts? Whereas now, Unfortunately, I put on a bit of weight. I don't look like that anymore. But this happens to all of us. I remember you had a perm. You remember the long hair and the perm and stuff. But it happens to everyone. So the cards are very flattering. Put it that way. The cards are extremely flattering. So I'm happy with the cards.
In terms of your footballing ability, though, I saw a quote from Jamie Carragher recently. Now, he was just coming through as you were at the tail end of your time at Liverpool, and he referred to you as the version of Thierry Henry prior to Thierry Henry. He said that you were that good. You never lost the ball in training. That's quite a compliment. Have you spoke to Jamie about this? Have you got any response?
I speak to Jamie all the time. The version of Thierry Henry before he was Thierry Henry.
Yeah,
so before he was Thierry Henry, he was nothing. Wasn't it?
This is true.
So I couldn't have been that good. No, I was like Thierry Henry before Thierry Henry.
I'm sure you appreciate those.
I understand what you meant, though.
Yeah, because
I understand what Jamie meant as well, because he's from Liverpool. He's from a place called Bootle, so English isn't their first language, as you know. But Jamie's a very kind boy.
You said that, not me.
No, but look, Jamie Carragher was a wonderful professional footballer, and I'll tell you why. Because he was effort, commitment, spirit, determination. When you look at Steven Gerrard and Jamie, who came through probably about the similar time, Steven Gerrard was naturally talented, but Jamie worked so hard to maximize the potential he has, which is what life is all about, to become a professional footballer to win the Champions League. And of course, he's now gone on to do wonderful things in his media career and his punditry. And he works hard at it. He's always worked hard. So yeah, Jamie's he's a good one.
So take me back to the start of your career. Then by the way, you can start signing now if you'd like.
1 second. You want me to write and talk at the same time?
Well, you're a man of great intellect.
The women will tell you that we cannot multitask. However. So
I'm sure you can
try and do that. I'll try and do that. So the question, is that right again?
And what you can
do...
do...
I'll tell you the start of my career. Start of my career is when I first came to England at 13 years old. My dad was a military attaché from Jamaica. He got sent to England as military attaché. In the 1950s, my father was at Sandhurst, the army officer, the officer training store for all of Britain and the colonial countries. And my dad was at Sandhurst with Andrew Parker Bowles. You know who Andrew Parker Bowles is? That's Camilla's ex-husband. Did you say that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Camilla's ex-husband. He was actually at my mother and father's wedding. And when my father then got sent back to England in 1976 as military attaché, Andrew Parker Bowles used to come to our house for dinner regularly. He was by himself. I'm not sure his wife was, but my dad said, don't ask questions like that. You're a bit young to understand. But my dad also played football. So I grew up playing football. And I came to England as a 13-year-old. And it was only a 4-year posting. So we didn't emigrate. I didn't come here to live. We came here for 4 years. When I was 17, my dad got recalled back to Jamaica. I got offered a football scholarship to Howard University. I expected to go back to Jamaica and then go on to America. And probably 6 months before that happened, I was just playing football for a team called Sudbury Court near Wembley, just in the park, with about 3 people watching. One of them happened to be a taxi driver. He knew a scout. He told the scout to come and watch me. I didn't know the scout was going to come and watch me. I knew nothing about the scout. And then they asked me to come to Watford to train, and I went to train. Then they offered me a contract. Now, if that taxi driver didn't stop to watch that game, I would never have been spotted. This is 1980, when a lot of people I felt who I played with slid through the net. They didn't have academies. The scouting wasn't that thorough that they could see everybody. And I felt there were so many good players who played with me, who were equally as good as me, who were just never spotted. So, I believe in fate, and I believe that if the taxi driver just happened to stop and watch me, and my mum and dad went back, and I stayed to play for Watford, which was a great club. 6 years at Watford. I'm doing his job from Anna. He should have been telling me all this. 6 years at Watford. And Watford was a fantastic football club because Graham Taylor took Watford from the 4th division to the top division in 5 years. And in my first year at Watford, my second year at Watford, we finished second in the league to Liverpool. Man United finished third. Sorry to tell you that's as good as it gets for Man United, obviously, but when Watford finished second in the league, 80% of those players at Watford would have come from the 4th division. 80% of them. So how could Watford finish second when 80% of the players came from the 4th division? Because what Graham Taylor spoke about was togetherness, the belief. Yes, you have to be good players, but you don't have to be the best players to be able to be competitive and to be successful. And that is what football, that's what life's all about. That's what all you kids should understand. All you need is hard work, effort, commitment, determination, and you can be successful in anything you want. So my 6 years at Watford, people talk about my career taking off when I went to Liverpool. And yes, it did, in terms of taking it internationally or nationally or where everybody knows about me. But my first 35 caps were when I played for Watford.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, you're four years.
The goal against Brazil was when I played in Watford.
Yeah.
So what happened was, in the old days, what you had to do is you had to show a level of consistency over a long period of time before you went to a big club. So I was at Watford for 6 years. Peter Beers, who was at Newcastle for 6 years. Brian Robson, to give Man United a mention, who was England's captain, England's best player, was at West Brom for 6-7 years before he went to Man United. What happens now, and I'll use Jadon Sancho as an example, you have a player who plays well for 1 or 2 seasons, and all of a sudden you cost £80 million, you go to a big club, and you see the inconsistency. You should really stay at the club that you're at for a period of time to show that you've got that level of consistency before you go to the cauldron. That's a huge club where there's a lot of pressure. So I was happy that I stayed at Watford for 6 years before I went to Liverpool.
Yeah, you mentioned Graham Taylor there. He was every time I've been talking about him, he seems like he made a really big impression on you, John, as a young man. Can you just talk a little bit more about him? Because there'll be probably people in the audience that may not know too much about Graham Taylor as a guy and as a manager.
Well, first of all, my dad being an army officer was very, very strict. So growing up, my dad said to me, never matter how good you are as a footballer, you have to think about the team, you got to think about training, you got to think about the commitment, the determination, the humility. Just to give you an example, when I first came to England as a 13-year-old, and in Jamaica at 12, I was playing for the under-18. So I was always a good footballer. And I was always an attacker, a winger, a centre forward. I was scoring goals. I was a flair player. I then came to England and played for a team in Paddington called Stowe Boys Club at 13 till I was 17. When I got there, at the Stowe Boys Club was a fantastic youth team who played in the Regent's Park Sunday League, and they were winning 10-0 every week, 8, 9, 10. They were fantastic. And of course, when you play in a team like that, no one wants to play as a defender because everybody wants to score goals. I'm 13 years old, everybody wants to score goals.
So they put you in centre.
They didn't put me at centre-half. I was the best player at centre-forward. I'm a winger. But my dad said to me, you are going to play for this team as centre-back. So I said to the coach, I will play as a centre-back. I was never a centre-back, but because my dad said the first responsibility is to the team. So for 4 years, till I went to Watford, I played as a centre-back. Obviously, when I went to Watford, I was never going to be a centre-back. But I think I'm just trying to show the importance of, doing the right thing for the team.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's where I was brought up. Then when I went to Watford, Graham Taylor was exactly the same. The humility that you had and the respect for the players, for the fans, for the community, be part of the community. So my first 6 years at Watford, I was very pleased with, and I was happy to be there because it just continued what my dad had, the way my dad had brought me up. Not about being a superstar. And even though I was like 19, then I'm playing for England, and Watford had players from the 4th division, they were more important than me. I had to be subservient to them because they had seen it all and done it. So the way I was brought up was one of humility, one of respecting the team, respecting your elders, respecting the senior teammates who may have played in the 4th division for Grimsby, but they're more important than me, although I'm playing for England. So that's why I was so happy to be there for the first 6 years.
Yeah, that's really nice. So I'm intrigued to know, as you spent the first 13 years of your life, 12 years of your life in Jamaica, when you first came to Britain, what were your what are your earliest memories of that? Like, I mean, you arrived in the January, so I imagine it was really cold when you got here. And was it a little bit of a culture shock, John?
Well, it was January the 26th, 1976. I remember it vividly. And you must speak to Americans a lot because I'm talking, please.
Starting in 5 minutes.
Now, obviously, you speak to Americans a lot because you said I arrived in Britain. I didn't arrive in Britain. I arrived in England. Americans say Britain. This is England I arrived in. And January the 26th, I remember vividly, and I'll tell you why. Because I knew I was coming to England for 4 years. And then I thought I was going to go back to Jamaica. However, I was so excited about coming to what I consider to be the home of football. Loved, because you used to watch football on television every Saturday night, watching Arsenal and, Liverpool and the big teams. So I knew I was coming to England. I was just looking forward to football. And when we arrived on a Sunday morning, and we flew into Heathrow. And I remember it vividly because as we were coming in, it was a Sunday morning. And on Sunday morning, around Heathrow, which is in Arlington, which was Chelsea's old training ground. But this is before it was Chelsea's training ground. It was just loads of football pitches where they had Sunday league with all these, and as the plane's coming in, you can actually see the pitches with all these kids playing football. Proper kits and 11-a-side. And although it was cold, I saw kids my age, because when you're coming into land, that's how close it was. You could actually see the pitches. And that really, as much as it was the coldest winter, I think, January the 26th, 1976, the fact that it was cold didn't bother me at all, because once I saw young kids my age playing football, as I'm coming into land, I thought I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. And you're from quite I know you've mentioned about your father there, but am I right thinking that some of your siblings, like everyone's quite sporty, you're quite good at sport, you're a good swimmer as well?
Yeah, well, my dad, we were brought up in a very sporting household. My sister swam for Jamaica and played squash for Jamaica. I was swimming competitively before I was playing football competitively. I always played football, but I was swimming since I was 5 and 6 years old competitively. We used to go from Jamaica to Miami to swim in tournaments for my swim club, Marlin. And when my swimming career stopped at the age of 12, once again, because of the way my father brought me up, we used to have to go to swimming training every day. Every day we had to go to swimming training. We had to walk to the national stadium pool to swim after school. It's only about half a mile from us. But every now and again, I'd stop off to play football. And my dad said, if you're not going to go to swimming training every day, stop swimming. Because whatever you do, you got to do it with authenticity, with determination, with discipline. So because I wouldn't go swimming training every day, I stopped swimming. So yeah, it's a very sporting household I was brought up in, and very academic apart from me, because football was what I did. So
is your son's a banker and is your sister a lawyer? Am I right thinking?
My sister's a lawyer. I've got 7 kids. My 2 kids are doctors. One's a plastic surgeon, consultant plastic surgeon. Don't get excited. Not cosmetic surgery. That's car crashes and burns. So a lot of women, when it's in the plastic surgery, get all excited, but it's not that kind of. My other daughter, is my son's a banker, and my other daughter is property management consultant. But my 3 little kids are just living their best life, because I've got kids aged from 27 to 39, and then from 13 to 19. And my kids who are 13 to 19, like you, are living your best life, aren't you? My kids aged between 26 and 39 were living my best life. Means when I tell them to do something, they did it. Whereas the other ones now, you can't shout at them, can you? Can't tell them anything, can you? They threaten you with social services, all that kind of stuff. I want my big kids to try that, I can tell you.
Are any of the kids, I've heard you say that your son, one of your sons was a really promising footballer.
The banker, both of them were. They love football. But the thing about it is that there's so many kids aged between 7 and 15 who are very, very good footballers. A very, very small percentage of them are going to be professional footballers, but most people think they are. So, from an educational point of view, I said, okay, you love football, fine, but you go to school, you study hard, and we'll see where it takes you. Because my son, who's a doctor now, he's a plastic surgeon, was even better than my other son, who went to play for England universities, and he played at Tranmere Reserves when he was at university. But my other son was better, the eldest one, who's a plastic surgeon, and he loved football, wants to be a professional footballer when he's 8, 9, 10. And I said, okay, yeah, you work hard at school. Then when he got to 14, he just stopped football. So when these kids say they want to be professional footballers when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, you don't know. They've got to develop, they've got to grow, they may fall out of love, they may not want to play football anymore. So unfortunately, what happens now is that a lot of parents just put out all their eggs in one basket to say they're going to be footballers, and maybe they don't want to play football when they get to 15, 16. So while they were good, talent alone is not enough. You have to have the attitude, the commitment, and also the determination and the talent. And unfortunately, a lot of parents and a lot of kids feel that they're the ones who are going to make it, but 99% of them aren't.
Yes.
So, that's why I said yes. I encouraged them in everything they did. We love football, but from an educational point of view, for me, that was the most important thing.
Understood. So, there'll be lots of Liverpool fans around. There are always these 2 gentlemen over here. They talked to me earlier. They're Reds. So you go from Watford to Liverpool. I'm right that again, Graham Taylor was kind of like he encouraged you to go and sign for Liverpool, even though it was a detriment to him, i.e. he'd have liked to have kept you around the place, obviously. So you go and sign for Liverpool. What was that experience like in going from Watford to Liverpool? Was that a big jump in terms of professionalism? Because Heskey was talking about this yesterday, i.e. from Leicester to Liverpool in his case. Did you notice that, John?
Well, it was Graham Taylor didn't encourage me to go to Liverpool. He insisted that I went to Liverpool. He insisted wow. Because Graham Taylor took the Watford from the 4th division to the top division. We got to the UEFA Cup quarterfinals. We got to the FA Cup final. We finished 2nd in the league. But what he understood was that this was just a special time in Watford's history whereby they were going to be successful. He never thought we're now going to be challenging Arsenal and Man United and Liverpool to win the league every year, as much as we did for a couple of years. And he felt that his boys, as he called it, he brought through to get the best out of us. We then had to go. Luther went to AC Milan. Nato Callan to Aston Villa. So we moved on, and with his blessing, and in fact, he insisted, because he also knew that for our careers, the best thing for us individually, as much as he has to respect Watford and wanting to do well, was to advise us correctly. So that's why I have so much respect for it because that's what he did. When you talk about professionalism, it's a bit different because of course when Emil Heskey came to Liverpool, that's with Gerard Houllier, football had changed. Don't forget when I played for Watford in 1981 until I went to Liverpool in 1987, the culture in professional football then was let's go to McDonald's, KFC and drink lots of alcohol. So that's the way it was. But it wasn't that way at Watford. At Watford, Brentford was very professional, very strict. We didn't drink. We didn't eat. We had a dietitian. We had a psychologist. He was so far ahead of his time. Whereas, of course, then when I went to Liverpool at 23 in 1987, I saw what real football was. They were just in the pub all the time. Now, you think I'm joking, but it wasn't because, look at Man United when you had Paul McGrath, Tony Adams with Arsenal. So that was the culture. So I was happy that I was at Watford for my first 6 years because I was brought up correctly. First by my father. Then when I got to 23 and I went to Liverpool, the problem you have if you're a young player going to a big club or a young player growing up in the world is peer pressure. There's no young person who says at 14, 15, I want to drink lots of beer and get drunk. But you do it because there's peer pressure. And if you can't handle that peer pressure, then you go down the wrong path. Now, fortunately for me, at 23, by the time I went to Liverpool, I was already an international. I wasn't a young player who could be influenced by the senior players saying, come on and get drunk, come on and drink with us. And if you're not part of the team, because that's what happened in football. That's why young footballers do what they do. That's why Tony Adams did what he did. So, and as I said, I was happy that I had 6 years because I would hate it to have gone to Liverpool or to any top club as a 17-year-old in the early 80s, because you do what you see the senior professionals do, and what Ron Robson and Tony Adams and these people are doing are going out and getting drunk. And if you're not part of that, then you're going to fall by the wayside. Because as much as what you may call bullying now, that was all part of banter, all part of growing up. So Emil came to Liverpool when that had already finished, and in fact, Gerard Houllier brought a professionalism to Liverpool, whereby if Emil had come 8 or 9 years earlier, as much as he may be in a strong character, it would have been harder for him. So yeah, it worked out well for me in that my first 6 years at Watford, went to Liverpool, didn't get involved in every now and again I did, but I knew when not to, and I wouldn't succumb to peer pressure because I was already an international player.
Because you already kind of knew yourself.
Established. And I was established, and it's really the young players that are trying to make their way in football and trying to ingratiate themselves to the senior players by doing stupid things because they get you to do stupid things.
Yeah, no, I understand. Just like you signed a couple more of them, John. Actually, when you signed, that pen got a bit funky. When you signed, John, could you just every now and again just drop your own personal message prior to your autograph? So you could write something like, "You'll never walk alone," or whatever John Barnes would say. Just kind of nice, gives it a bit of personalisation. Makes sense. Cool. Brilliant. Okay, so yeah, these cards will go off to our. So they look a bit flimsy at the moment, don't they? They don't look like this when they're finished. They'll go off, and on the back of the card, you'll be able to see when and where John signed the card. So it'll say, sign them at the London Card Show. And yeah, you can know then that if you do find one of these cards, you were there on the day that John signed it, which is pretty cool. Now, we are going to take some questions from you guys. Ruben, if you've got a couple, because we haven't spoken about England yet. We haven't spoken about your time in management. And I imagine there'll be some questions around this, that domain. So, gentleman over there, Ruben.
I think the mic's working today as well.
Great.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Big fan of yours, so that's all right.
But who was that small, me or you? All right, okay. I thought we were the same age. In fact, I thought you were a bit older than me, so I'm sorry, you could just kill my shatter my mind. When you meet people you think are older than you, and they say, when I was a little kid, I used to watch you play, you kind of go, don't you say you're a little kid. You better not say you're a little kid. I must have been a little kid. Sorry, go ahead.
You spoke about Graham Taylor as a big influence. Why didn't it work out for him, for England?
Well, if you listen to what I said about Graham Taylor, he took the team from the 4th division to the top division, and we finished 2nd in the league. So therefore, the players he had at Watford were players who came from the 4th division, which meant they have a certain humility, they've got a certain style. They are subservient to the team, subservient to Graham Taylor. He likes people like that. He doesn't like superstars. As much as he may have made them, if it's me or Luther Blissett, but he didn't sign superstar players. He believes that everybody is the same. There's no hierarchy in his team. And as I said, I'm 17, 18, I'm playing for England. I was not more important than the player on the bench who played in the 4th division. When all of a sudden you go and manage England, where you've got characters like Paul Gascoigne and Gary Lineker who are sometimes bigger than the team, he can't handle that. So therefore, he's tried to make everybody the same. And if you can't then, I'm not talking about being knocked down a peg or two, but if you can't then say you're not more important than that man on the bench, if you can't handle that, something's going to break. Either you or Graham Taylor. And unfortunately, with England, when he had big characters, they didn't like him because he would not pander to them. He would not treat them differently than anybody else. So therefore, that's why it didn't work out. So you have certain managers who are suited to certain styles. Graham's suited to a style, and players who may not be the best players, but they have lots of humility, lots of respect. And when you are then at a very, very big club, that you don't really get that. That's why I use Liverpool as an example now with Jurgen Klopp. He's very similar. If you look at the players Jurgen Klopp has signed, regardless of whether you see them now as superstars, they didn't come as superstars. Never mind Mo Salah. He came from Roma. He was at Basel. No one wanted him. We took him. You know, Mane, Firmino. These aren't superstar players. Guardiola may sign superstar players. He doesn't. So Jurgen Klopp is very similar in that the team is the most important thing. There's no one who's bigger than the team. And in fact, Guardiola is the same. Because if you want to step out of line like Cancelo did, or not like Kevin De Bruyne or David Silva or any of them would, but if they did, Pep Guardiola will get rid of them because that's the right way it should be in football. So Graham was suited to being at a small club to make them good, but not a big club to take them on. Terry Venables is one who could do that, but not Graham. Because Terry Venables would allow certain players like Gaza to do certain things and get away with things, whereas Graham Taylor would not do that. Whereas Terry understands if you got characters like that, maybe you have to let them get away with certain things, but then that could upset the team. Why is he getting away with it and we aren't? So it's just that I don't think that situation suited Graham.
Yeah, it's like Mourinho with, I always remember Mourinho with Hazard. So Mourinho wanted like his players to work, and but with Hazard, he was like, he said, I think there's a quote from John Terry where he's literally saying, Mourinho gets them all together and says, listen lads, like he's better than all of you. You're going to have to do, you know, his running forward.
Well, of course, because what then happened is then, of course, you know, because don't forget, when Graham Taylor was here, you're talking about the 80s. Now, you didn't have lots of foreign players in England then. And what you have to do is you have to know about the culture of the people. So therefore, when you have foreign players coming in, they've got a different culture. I remember, like, for example, my first priority when I played for Watford, forget about what you think about me attacking and scoring goals. My first priority is that do not let my right back, who I'm playing against, get a run on me and put a cross in. I've got to defend. That's my first priority for the team, defensively. Now, David Ginola came, and David's a fantastic player. And I remember at Newcastle, and then when the coach said that, David said, oh, no. Of course, he's beautiful, so you can get away with it. I don't defend. I don't run back. I imagine him saying that to Graham Taylor. I don't defend because I'm an attacker. So therefore, you have to be able to handle that when you have players of different cultures coming in to say, no, I don't do that. Whereas, you know, in the 80s, when they were all English players, no English player would say that. I mean, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's not good or it's not bad, it's just different. So you have to understand, and different cultures, different ways of playing football, and Graham wouldn't put up with that.
You know the whole group? Hello, mate.
Hi, Joe.
Hello, mate.
Was it always England you wanted to play for, or did you ever consider playing for Jamaica?
Well, it's an interesting question because if you remember what I said at the start, if you were falling asleep, I came from Jamaica when I was 13. We didn't emigrate, had a Jamaican passport. I am now 17. I'm now playing for Watford. I'm now 18. I'm playing for England. 2 years playing for England between 18 and 20. I still had a Jamaican passport.
So no one checked?
I didn't have a British passport. I had a Jamaican passport. We used to then fly to Russia and Czechoslovakia and places like that, Poland, with the England team on a normal plane. It wasn't like a private plane. And of course, when we then got to the airport, I had to get in that long queue of undesirables that we're all in now after Brexit. You know that queue, that long queue? I was in that queue. The team were in the nice queue. The team went through. They had to wait an hour for me because and of course, the Russian authorities will look and say, you've got an England suit on, you're playing for England, you've got a Jamaican passport. How come? So after an hour, they let me out. I think the players and the manager and the FA got fed up of waiting for me. So I woke up one morning and there was a British passport on my doorstep. I didn't remember filling any forms in. I'm sure I didn't. So I'm a bit worried now because I think Suona Breverman may want to send me to Rwanda. I'm not sure. But I've got a British passport. I don't know how legal it is. So I'm playing for England. Now, answer your question. I could have played for England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Wales because I became British. I didn't because I had a Jamaican passport, but I could have played for any of those four, apparently. Now, why did I choose England? I choose England because England chose me. When I was 19, England said, come and play. Yeah? Now, what happens with Britain is that if you look at a lot of players who then play for Ireland, Wales, or Scotland, Vinnie Jones playing for Wales, I mean, he's got a Welsh name. That's as close as it gets.
Your friend Jason.
You had Jason McAteer playing for the Republic of Ireland, and he played for the Republic of Ireland because the Irish FA said to him, there are 3 dead McAteers in Kilkenny. Choose one of them to be your granddad, so we can't ask questions. John Aldridge, the Scouser, who's played for the Republic of Ireland. Because what happens is, they're all great countries, but they want to play for England. Now, if you get to a certain stage, and you're 23, 24, 25, 26, and England don't ask you, and then Scotland, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, or Wales ask you, you want to go to the World Cup, you want to play international football, you play for them. England were the first to ask me. Now, I can't say if I got to 25 and England hadn't asked me to play, and Scotland or Republic of Ireland or Wales or whoever asked me to play, I would have played for them. Because once you choose to identify with someone and play for that team, you give 100%. I'll use Vinnie Jones as an example. Not Vinnie Jones, Stuart Pearce. Quintessential, Churchillian, British Bulldog, through and through English, Stuart Pearce. I know Stuart well. I've had this conversation with him, and he'll never admit it publicly. Stuart Pearce has got 69 England caps. I've done my research. If he had 68 caps, and Stuart Pearce's 69th cap, yeah, he's at 68 England caps, Englishman, British Bulldog, and his 69th cap happens to be, I don't know how, for France against England, playing for France, he would give 100%. Because once he goes onto that pitch, doesn't matter what shirt you're wearing, you give 100% because that's your team. You know, if that was the case, how can he leave Watford to go to Liverpool to go to another club and give 100%? So the Jamaica question is interesting because now it's a conversation because Jamaica since '98 they've qualified for the World Cup and they've got a decent team. But back then, even when I played for England, people in Jamaica probably didn't even know that they would know Jamaican. Because my dad is from Jamaica and he's a famous Jamaican, but it wasn't even a question of me choosing Jamaica back then. Now it'll be a more difficult question, but back then it wasn't even a question.
Interesting. Who else, Ruben?
Can't hear you, mate. Is it on? Or you want to shout?
Yeah.
He said, what are the 3 favorite players I played with and why? Well, I'll tell you. For England, the best player I played with for England, Brian Robson for me is the best player I played with for England at that time. Because English football was, yes, not so much about technique, it was about effort, commitment. Yes, you've got to be a good player, don't get me wrong. So Brian Robson was the best. But technically, and a player who I played with for England, who was the best player to play for England, the best player to play for England, but because back then, it wasn't about skill, it wasn't about technique, it was about fighting. This player, when after training, when me, Brian Robson, used to just sit around having a drink, and he'd be out there juggling the ball, doing things. He was years ahead of his time. If he was playing now, he would be the best player playing for England now, by far. And this is why a lot of the England players didn't like him when he was a manager, was Glenn Hoddle. Glenn Hoddle technically was the best player England, in my opinion, has ever produced. But back then, it wasn't about technique. Don't forget, English football, it was about fighting. So Glenn only got 50 caps, but he was an incredible footballer. Now for Liverpool, Ian Rush for me, you got lots of good goal scorers. Robbie Fowler, Ian Rush, even Alan Shearer, I played with them, Gary Lineker, they're all good goal scorers. But I say, how do we choose who's the best? Because they all score lots of goals. What I say is that the best one for me is the one who, as well as scoring 30 goals a season, what else does he do for the team? Which means when you haven't got the ball, how much are you closing down and running around? And what Ian Rush did defensively for the team puts him ahead of everybody else. The most selfless player I played with, in terms of he would rather you score and you work so hard for the team, which reminds me of Roberto Firmino, was Peter Beardsley. Peter Beardsley was one of my favorite players of all time. So they're probably the 3, or 4 or 5. I can't remember how many I mentioned, but they're the ones for me. But they're all team players.
What about Gaza? Just like
Gaza was a fantastic footballer, but Gaza came around at a time when Gaza Mania was around, Premier League's coming in, media attention. Brian Robson, I think, was better than Gaza, but because there was on television every week, and he was in the newspapers like Gaza. Gaza was a fantastic footballer, and he was a lovely person, and we love Gaza. I mean, Gaza is crazy, but apart from that, should I tell you a quick Gaza story?
Please do.
I'll tell you a Gaza story.
They're always normally good, John.
They're not, but down here, you haven't got many crazy people once you come south of Birmingham, but I can tell you. Any crazy people wherever you live. And the older people will understand this story, the younger people won't, but it'll still be funny. The 1990 World Cup, Gaza was the hero because we are obviously the game against Germany when Gaza got booked. and he was going to miss the final had we won. And Gary Lineker said he's trying to take him off. Bobby Robson should have taken him off because Gaza's going to do something stupid, which he didn't. He put up a great disciplined performance. It was a surprise. So Gaza's the hero. Then we played in the third and fourth playoff in Naples against Italy, and it was a great occasion because you're playing Italy, who are the host nation. They did better than expected to even get to the semifinals, so the Italian fans were happy. And you play Italy in Naples, which is the home of the Cosa Nostra, the mafia, so you got to be a bit careful. So as we're now in the dressing room, after the game, Gaza's the hero. This man walks in the dressing room. Now, as a footballer, no one can come into the dressing room. But when you're in Naples, the home of the mafia, and a man looking like Don Corleone with 4 bodyguards with bulging pockets with guns in it walks into the dressing room, you kind of go, he's important, so he can come in. That man was Gianni Agnelli. Gianni Agnelli is the owner of Juventus, the owner of Fiat, one of the most powerful men in Italy, one of the most politically connected men in Italy. And he comes into the dressing room and he goes, Gascoigne wants to meet Gaza. So he stands there with his bodyguards. So we shouted at Gaza, we've got Gaza, someone's here to see you. So Gaza comes out the shower and he looks around and he says, wow, that man over there. Now you would think any sensible person would look at a situation like that and think no one's supposed to be in the dressing room, but they were in the home of Naples. He looks like he's a mafia boss. He's got 4 bodyguards. Maybe I should even put a towel on to go and say hello to him. But not Gaza. I've got to show you. And I'll need a prop. So Gaza walks over to Don Corleone. And it's Don Corleone, Gianni Agnelli. And as Gaza's walking over to Gianni Agnelli, can you be Gianni Agnelli, please? He's shorter than you, but he's got a bald head. So just come and stand there. As he's walking over to Gianni Agnelli, you know something's going in Gaza's mind. He's going to do something stupid, because he always does. Now, as he's walking over, we didn't know what was in his mind. We didn't know what he's going to do. But what he did, obviously, let us understand what he was thinking. So as he's walking over, he's thinking to himself, just come a little bit closer. You're safe. He looks like he's with Benny Hill. Remember Benny Hill? So he walks over to Gianni Agnelli and he goes, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Benny Hill. You don't know, but Google Benny Hill. So Gianni Agnelli has pushed him off, and all the bodyguards were like wanting to fight everybody, and he stormed off. And he never went to Juventus, did he? He went to Lazio. So how can you not love Gaza? How can you not love Gaza? And of course, he can sit back down there. But Gaza's partner in crime, let's just have some fun, was Bobby Robson. Remember Bobby Robson? What a manager Bobby Robson was. He was a great manager because he loved the players, and he's a real, when you talk about, once again, a quintessential Churchillian, British Bulldog, spirited man who just remembers the empire and the glory days, because every one of Bobby Robson's team talk started like this. Remember what they did to us in the war. Now, for you who don't know much about history, you may think it's just Germany. But if you know your history of our great country, we have fought everybody, haven't we? The Crimean War, War of Independence against America, 1812. He played against America in LA. He goes, remember 1812? You remember what happened? They kicked us out. So France, please, 100 Years War. Where we're playing against, it was always about the war. So I said, I'm speaking. I'm going to tell you this Bobby story. So we're playing against France, and what he used to do the tactics, and he had a big blackboard, and on the blackboard he had just round magnetic pieces, like a chess piece, but it's a magnet. So there's the goalkeeper, there's the back 4, that's France, and here's our team, and he'd move them around. And he would say, I've got it on this side because I'm left-handed. And he'd say, so there's the France, there's their back 4 defenders, all little round magnetic pieces. So I'm on the left. And he says, when you get the ball, so he's moved the magnet, and he goes and put it into Robson, he's moved the French around, and then he's moved it around to Chris Waddle on the right wing. So when he gets to Chris Waddle, the magnetic Chris Waddle, there's no left back. There's a big hole, a big space, and he goes, he goes, where's the left back? The left back's overcovered. He's gone missing. Down the line, cross, goal. You got that? I'll show you again. Barnes get the ball, put him back up, into Robson, out to Waddle, and as he gets to Waddle, there are 3 defenders, and there's no left back. The back 4, you go to left back, don't know where he is. He's overcovered, he's gone missing. Chris down the line, cross. Don Howe, who's the coach, he goes, Bobby. He said that left back's fallen on the ground. He's got a magnet falling off. So he's had to pick it up back, and you expect us to win the World Cup in Bobby. There you go.
Brilliant. Great stories. Right. I think we're almost out of time, aren't we? Yeah, we're out of time now, I'm afraid.
No more questions. Do I speak too much? There you go, one question.
One more
that looks like a serious question. He said, how did my career change after going to Brazil? That's a very good question. The expectations changed. Because, of course, and I mentioned, what Bobby Robson used to say to me is, and people said this, why don't you play for England the way you play for Liverpool? And I said, well, if England played the way Liverpool do, I would. Now, don't forget, I said it before. The way England played back then in the 80s was a very physical game. We didn't dominate possession. We didn't take too much time. We hit it long from back to front. Terry Butcher hit it up front, and then I got on the wing, down the line, put crosses in. We didn't play the way Man City and Liverpool and teams play now. So the technical players, I mentioned Glenn Hoddle, Chris Waddle, myself, we were then inconsistent because we didn't play. What happened when I played for Liverpool? The way we played, Adam Hansen bringing ball out from the back, we played a very European game, so we had a lot of possession. So therefore, I made good decisions. What I mean by that is that when I got the ball, there are times when I used to just pass it first time because I knew I would get it again 20 seconds later, then I would dribble. Or maybe I played off first time, but I knew I'd get a lot of the ball. When I played for England and I know I wouldn't get a lot of the ball, when I got it, I thought I had to do something special because I wouldn't get it again for another 10 minutes. So I tried too hard. I did Chris Waddle and Glenn Hoddle. So it's just that it didn't suit me. Whereas if you look at football now, and it's not just now, I'd say in the last 25 years, England is now a very technical team. So who are the players that we like now and who are very consistent? The Phil Fodens and the Grealishes and the Sakas, because it's a very technical game. So very much like Glenn Hoddle, I just thought English football didn't suit me at that particular time. And of course, I'm available now, but at 60 years old and 16 stone, I don't think I'll be able to do it anymore.
Best England goal ever scored, that gentleman said there.
Let's go. Well, that's best England goal, but my favourite was against Queen's Park Rangers for Liverpool. I don't know if you remember that one.
Do you remember that one, mate?
Liverpool fans.
Oh yeah, the new Liverpool manager. We'll finish on that. Then the new Liverpool manager. Oh, but just before we do though, as you were, you were berating me for not knowing how many appearances you made for England earlier. You said earlier on in the season, John, that you didn't think that Arsenal were title contenders. So I wanted to ask you now: Are you? And it's, are you going to revise that a little bit now? Is that a little bit unfair on Arsenal? We've got the Arsenal fans.
Well, hang on a second. There are 2 games to go. Of course, they can win the league. But of course, at the start of the season, I didn't think that. Well, put it this way: Man City still our favourites.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is if Man City win the league, I can then go, see, I told you they were title contenders. Of course, they're title contenders. I didn't think they'd win the league. Last year, I felt they'd fall away because I didn't think that they had the necessary experience. And I still feel from a defensive midfield point of view, they needed something which they did get with Declan Rice. So the amazing thing for Arsenal, in my opinion now, is that because they still haven't got a recognised striker, but they've scored so many goals. Because normally you'd think they need someone to score goals. So you can never overachieve because you can only maximize your potential. So you can't overachieve. But I think Arsenal maximize their potential to take it this far. So they've got a great chance. Man City obviously still our favourites, but they have surprised me insofar. I didn't think that they would fall away as badly as they did last year.
Yeah.
But I put it this way, I thought that Liverpool would be second and Arsenal third, not the other way around.
Which is fair enough because you did make those comments in January, and that was a lot of different layout there. So yeah. Liverpool, new manager, it's going to be a really hard gig for whoever takes that then, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the most important thing is for the fans to believe it in, the fans to trust it. It's going to be a change because it's going to be a different style to Jurgen Klopp, which we have to accept. Once a manager comes in, and if you want the team to do well, you have to back him. Even if they don't do well, if they lose a couple of matches, you have to back him. We did it with Jurgen Klopp. His first year at 25 points off the top, but we trusted him. Arsenal did it with Arteta. And the most important thing about any new manager coming in is that he has to be the most important person. Now, you Arsenal fans will know that previous Arsenal managers, and they had some good ones, Emery was a good manager.
Yeah.
Once you start putting players above the manager, it's a recipe for disaster. And what happened in Arsenal? Any manager who fell out with Aubameyang got the sack. When Arteta did what he did with Aubameyang, but the fans still backed him, the other players stood to attention, he can see what happened. Jurgen Klopp had it with Sacco and a couple of the other players. Whereas most clubs put the players above the manager. And that's what happened at Man United. You've had great managers and Ten Hag now all of a sudden. So here's a question. And it's a subconscious thought by players. I never accuse any player of not trying. But subconsciously, as much as subconsciously knowing is a bit strange, but subconsciously, when you're on that pitch, and here's the question. If we lose today, who are the fans going to boo? And as long as the answer is we're going to boo the manager, the players absolve themselves of responsibility. Now, when Liverpool played Everton and they played virtually a youth team, those youth team players knew if we lose, you're not going to blame the manager, so we have to perform. Whereas other clubs, who are they blaming now? At Chelsea, they blame the manager. Arsenal, before Arteta came, they blame the manager. Liverpool, with Brendan Rodgers and others. And Man United, they've been doing it. So for the point I'm trying to make with the slot, you have to then stop. Don't think, Klopp wouldn't have done this. We prefer Klopp style, whatever. You got to do it now. The good thing about Jurgen Klopp is that he has left Liverpool in a healthy state. For you Man United fans who remember when Alex Ferguson left, great Sir Alex Ferguson left, That Man United team was an old team. You had Ferdinand, you had a lot of these old players who were still there. So when David Moyes came, you had powerful players in their 30s, but they had just gone over the hill, which meant that they were going to be competitive. Now, if Jurgen Klopp left last year when he had, Henderson, Milner, Fabinho, who were like 30, 31, a new manager coming in, obviously would have to change that. But he changed it to bringing these young players with good humility, good profile, good age, and we still challenged up until 3 games ago to win the league, and we won a trophy. So the Liverpool manager now coming, he's got a lot to work with. So, but I'd say to the fans, you have to back him, and if you don't like the way he's playing, you got to put up with him. Don't say Jurgen Klopp would have done this. Back him all the way to the hilt.
Got it. Right, okay, everybody. So John's going to go off for a break now, get a brew, and then he's going to be over in that corner, and that's where he's going to be available for pictures and to sign anything that you need signing. So that's over in the corner towards the back where Whatnot are. So if you want to make your way over there, we'll grab a drink, and then John will finish signing these, and then we'll be over. Okay? All right, thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. Thank you to John.
No, honestly, you're too... No, honestly, no. You're too kind. You're too kind. No, you don't have to clap.
Very good. Thanks, John.
Thank you. I'm signing all these, yeah?
Yeah, we'll make off for a drink now, just around the back.
I'll have a gin and tonic then.
It's never too early, mate. It's too early. John,
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you just going back just about Bobby.
Yeah.
And you said about different cultures and how football's changed. I mean, I grew up watching you as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
Bobby seemed to handle all that, didn't he? And he had, you know what I mean? Look at the leaders he had in his team, and you
We'll be over
know,
50.
Tears.
Absolutely. But
he handled
all
that,
right,
didn't
no
he? He had that blend, you know what I mean?
But Graham Taylor's like that. People are different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Terry Venables was very good at that. But Terry Venables would have get away with all kinds of other managers. Like, you know when they talk about this guy that went to Man United, he would have killed Fergie.
Yeah.
There's no way Fergie's going to chase him. You know, people thought Fergie would have sorted him out. I know Gazza. There's no way. So Gazza's crazy.
But then saying that Fergie done have a gig to Lee Sharp and that, didn't he? He taught them down a peg or two, didn't he? Oh, totally. Yeah, I know.
I'm not talking about the players, I'm talking about the people. They're normal.
Yeah.
These like a night out for Sharp. Crazy.
yeah,
You're right now about Taylor, what he done before. I'll tell you, that's really
Could you sort out
talk about that. You know what I mean? 4 divisions in 5 years.
And when we finished second in the league, we then went into the UEFA Cup. That would have been the Champions League. We
Yeah.
got the top team went there. We got to the quarterfinals of the UEFA
Right,
Cup.
obviously, what Forest.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's a much bigger club, yeah?
We live just near Luton.
All right, okay.
Obviously, what Luton.
Where'd you live?
Yeah, just head over to the back, yeah. And then,
I played for Watford, didn't I?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. No, what I was going to say is obviously what Luton have done. Obviously now they've had to go to the Premier League. Obviously that they just weren't